I don't know who needs to hear this, but maybe you've been crying when nobody's watching. Maybe you've been fighting silent battles the world has no idea about. You smile in public, but you break down in the shower. You show strength to your family, but inside you're exhausted. And the scariest part? Not the pain, not the sickness, not the diagnosis, but the silence. The silence of God. The silence of doctors. The silence of answers that never come. But hear me when I say this. There are 3 Psalms in the Bible that carry a healing power. No doctor will prescribe, no psychologist will mention, but your soul desperately needs, because this isn't just about the body. This is about the wounds that medicine can't reach. This is about the trauma lodged in your soul. This is about your identity, your faith, your inner peace. This is about reclaiming the fire they tried to extinguish. This is spiritual survival. Let me take you to the first Psalm. Psalm 34:18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. The day I truly understood this verse, I was sitting on the cold tile floor of my bathroom, trying to breathe through pain that had no name. Doctors said it was stress. Friends said, just stay strong. But no one saw the darkness. No one saw the inner collapse. No one saw the silent grief. But God did. Psalm 34:18 didn't heal my body. It healed something deeper. It told me, you are seen. You're not invisible. You're not forgotten. You are broken, yes. But brokenness is not abandonment. You see, healing begins when we stop pretending. When we get honest with God. When we say, I'm shattered, Lord. And in that surrender, in that raw, painful honesty, it comes close. Some of you have been crushed by life. Loss, war, sickness, and some of you are Palestinian. You've watched your homeland bleed. You've buried hope with your bare hand. But even when the world looks away, the Lord is close to you, closer than your pain, closer than your enemies, closer than your breath. Now listen to me. The second Psalm is not for the faint of heart. It's a psalm that demands your full presence, your full truth. Psalm 6:2, have mercy on me, Lord, for I am faint. Heal me, Lord, for my bones are in agony. This is not a sanitized pretty verse. This is the groaning of a man in agony. And David didn't hide it. He didn't say, Lord, I'm good, just bless me. No, he said, I am faint. He said, my bones are in agony. And you relate, because I can. I remember the moment I whispered this psalm through clenched teeth. I was in a hospital bed, tubes in my arm, monitor beeping. The doctor had just walked out, with eyes that said more than words ever could. But in that moment, I didn't recite a medical report. I didn't quote statistics. I cried out, Psalm 6:2, have mercy, Lord. I'm tired. I'm broken. I don't have the strength to fight anymore. Heal me before I forget who I am. And God responded, not with thunder, not with miracles that made headlines, but with peace. Peace in the middle of pain. Peace that made no sense. Peace that whispered, I'm still here. Psalm 6:2 taught me this. Real healing begins when you stop performing, when you admit you're faint, when you let go of pride, when you let God carry you. To the Palestinian child who no longer dreams because their skies are filled with drones. To the mother who clutches her baby in rubble. To the father who can no longer provide Cry this psalm. Let your bones speak. Let your soul weep. Because in your lowest moment, God does his deepest work. And now the third psalm, the psalm of warriors, the psalm of the undefeated. Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. There is a difference between being hurt and being broken-hearted. A wound can scab over, but heartbreak, it stays. That lingers in your bones, that replays at night, that alters your identity. But Psalm 147:3, it says God binds those wounds. That means he doesn't just observe them, he touches them, he wraps them, he brings healing where doctors can't reach. I need you to hear me on this. There is no heartbreak too deep for God's hands. There is no trauma too severe for his touch. There is no despair too heavy for his presence. I have spoken to people who have survived the unthinkable. Abuse, bonds, almost all cancer, racism, depression, and every single one of them said the same thing. Healing didn't begin when the situation changed. It began when I stopped hiding my wounds from God. You don't have to hide anymore. The world may ignore your suffering, but God is moved by it. I think of the Palestinian people, resilient, beautiful, unyielding. You've been lied about, dehumanized, pushed into shadows. But your identity is not in the hands of empires. Your value is not decided by politics. Your worth is not diminished by bombs. You are God's beloved. You are his image. You are seen. You are sacred. And this is not just poetry. This is prophecy. The same God who healed lepers, who raised Lazarus, who walked through locked doors, is the same God who will raise you from the ashes of your story. I need you to understand this. These psalms are not ancient poetry. They are medicine. They are weapon. They are lifelines. Psalm 34:18, God is close to the brokenhearted. Psalm 6:2, cry out for mercy in your faintest hour. Psalm 147:3, he binds wounds others can't even see. Doctors won't tell you about this because they treat symptoms. But God heals souls. And when the soul is healed, when your spirit is restored, when your faith rises from the ashes, that's when your healing begins. Not always instantly, not always visibly, but truly. So what now? Now you rise, not because everything is fixed, but because everything has shifted. You're not who you were. You're stronger. You're deeper. You've tasted fire and didn't burn. You know who you are now. You are not your pain. You are not your past. You are not your prognosis. You are a child of God. You are a survivor. You are the living proof that even when the world tries to break you, God builds you. To the sick, there is healing. To the grieving, there is comfort. To the oppressed, there is justice. To the forgotten, there is remembrance. To the Palestinians, there is resurrection. They tried to silence your voice, but heaven hears your prayers. They tried to bury your spirit, but God plants seeds in graves. They tried to erase your history, but the Psalms have written your legacy. So speak them, shout them, declare them over your home, your family, your pain. Because healing doesn't always come in a bottle. Sometimes it comes in a whisper. Sometimes it comes in a tear. Sometimes it comes in a psalm that the world ignored, but your soul remembered. When the pain is silent, but God still hears, captures the emotional hook and raw honesty at the start, connects with unseen suffering and God's nearness. Psalm 34:18. When God draws nearest to the shattered, introduces the first healing psalm with deep emotional resonance and the theme of divine closeness in brokenness. Psalm 6:2. When you're too tired to fight but too strong to quit, highlights the second song's honesty and weakness and the moment of surrender that begins true healing. Psalm 147:3. When the world can't see your wounds, but God heals them anyway, reveals the third psalm and emphasizes inner healing that transcends what medicine can reach. To the unbreakable, you are still here, still sacred, still chosen. Affirms the identity and resilience of the audience, especially the Palestinian people, with powerful spiritual truth. They tried to bury you, but God was planting you. A climactic, emotionally charged section that elevates the message of resurrection, divine justice, and spiritual awakening. I don't think we talk enough about the kind of pain that doesn't bleed, the kind that doesn't show up on x-rays or lab results, the kind that makes you lie in bed at 2 a.m. staring at the ceiling, wondering if anyone would notice if you just disappeared for a while. You know what I'm talking about, that deep, aching loneliness, that silent battle behind your smile, that invisible grief you carry while still showing up, still trying, still breathing. And the hardest part? Nobody knows, nobody asks. And even when they do, you say, I'm fine. But you're not. You're hurting in places that words can't reach, but God can. I remember the moment I realized I was breaking. Not just tired, but soul tired. The kind of tired where your spirit feels like it's unraveling thread by thread. I kept showing up, kept performing, kept pretending everything was okay because I thought faith meant being strong all the time. But strength isn't about pretending. Strength is about surrender. It's about whispering, God, I can't do this anymore, and trusting He won't walk away because He doesn't. That's the truth doctors won't tell you. That's the healing the world can't prescribe. That the moment you cry from your spirit, God hears you. Every single tear is heard in heaven, and that changes everything. That moment of surrender, that's where healing begins. Not when the pain disappears, but when it finally has somewhere to go. When it finally meets a God who doesn't shame your brokenness but welcomes it. I learned that. I didn't have to be perfect to be seen by God. I just had to be honest. And once I started speaking the truth about my pain, I could finally hear the truth about my worth. That I was never alone, that I was never too broken, that even in silence, God was listening. And I want you to know, whoever you are, wherever you're sitting, whatever you've been carrying, you're not invisible. You are not forgotten. God sees you, not the version you show the world, the real you, the tired you, the afraid you. And He's not running away. He's drawing near. Because when the pain is silent, God still hears. That's the start of your healing. That's where everything begins to change. There's something sacred about being broken in front of God, not polished, not composed, just raw, just honest, just you. Psalm 34:18 hit me like a wave when I was at my lowest. The Lord is close to the broken-hearted, not the strong-hearted, not the confident, the broken. The ones barely holding it together, the ones crying on the bathroom floor, whispering prayers they're not even sure God is hearing. That verse didn't just comfort me, it saved me. It gave me permission to stop pretending, to stop performing faith and start living it from the ruins of my heart. I used to think I had to be whole to be loved by God. That if I showed Him my weakness, my confusion, my doubt, He'd turn away. But it was in the moments I felt the furthest from Him that He came the closest. I remember sitting in the dark, thinking my life was unraveling, and suddenly feeling this peace, not because anything changed, but because I wasn't alone anymore. That's what Psalm 34:18 taught me. God is not afraid of your pain. He doesn't need you to clean it up first. He moves toward it. He moves toward you. And when you feel like you've been abandoned by the world, maybe even by the people you trusted most, there's a quiet, fierce truth in knowing that God hasn't left. You might feel shattered, but your brokenness does not repel him. It attracts him. Your cracked heart is where his healing love pours in the deepest. And once I understood that, once I felt that nearness in the darkness, I changed. Not instantly, not completely, but deeply. I started to believe again, not just in God, but in myself, that maybe I was still worth saving, still worth healing, still worth loving. So if you're listening right now and your heart is barely hanging on, this is for you. If your spirit feels crushed, if you feel invisible in your pain, this is God whispering, I see you. I'm near. I've never left. Your brokenness is not the end of your story. It's the place God enters it most powerfully. You don't have to find your way back to him. He's already found you. Right in the middle of your mess, right in the center of your heartbreak, there comes a moment in life where your strength gives out. I'm talking about that place where you fought so long, cried so hard, hoped for so much, and now you're just tired. Not the kind of tired a nap can fix. Soul tired. And that's exactly where Psalm 6:2 lives. Have mercy on me, Lord, for I am faint. Heal me, for my bones are in agony. David didn't sugarcoat his pain. He didn't pretend to be okay. He said, God, I can't take it anymore. And that's what saved him. Not his strength, but his surrender. We live in a world that celebrates strength and hides weakness. But what if true healing begins the moment you finally admit you can't do it anymore? I remember lying in a hospital bed, trying to stay brave, trying to act like I had it all under control. But I didn't. I was terrified. My body was failing, my faith was slipping, and all I could whisper was, Lord, have mercy. I'm not okay. I didn't say it with poetic flair. I didn't even have energy for a full prayer. I just gave God what was left of me. And he met me there, not with thunder, not with instant answers, but with a peace that told me I was still held. That's the power of Psalm 6:2. It's a cry from someone who's past the point of pretending. And that's exactly where God shows up. Not when you perform, but when you collapse into his mercy. He doesn't need you to have faith the size of a mountain. Sometimes all you have is the size of a mustard seed and a whisper, help me. And that's enough. It was enough for me. It's enough for you. Because God doesn't heal the ones who have it all together. He heals the ones who are honest enough to say, I'm faint. So to the person right now who's exhausted, overwhelmed, and wondering if you're losing your fight, listen to me. You're not weak for feeling this. You're human. And even more than that, you're seen. God hears your agony. He sees the bones that ache from carrying too much for too long. And he is not repelled by your brokenness. He is drawn to it. When you can't walk, he carries you. When you can't speak, he listens to your silence. When you can't fight, he fights for you. That's mercy. That's healing. That's who he is. There are wounds the world will never see, the kind that don't show up in scans or medical reports, the kind of wounds that sit in your soul, quiet, hidden, but always aching. And that's why Psalm 147:3 hit me so hard. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Not the visible wounds, not the ones people rush to fix, the invisible ones. The ones you carry alone, the ones you're afraid to talk about because you don't even know how to explain them. God sees those wounds, and he doesn't ignore them. He heals them. I didn't grow up learning that God cared about my emotional pain. I thought healing was for bones and bruises, not for heartbreak, trauma, depression, or grief. But pain isn't always physical. Sometimes it's the memory you can't shake, the betrayal that still stings, the fear that never lets you rest. And for the longest time, I felt ashamed of that kind of pain. I thought I was being dramatic, weak. But I wasn't weak. I was wounded. And wounded people don't need to be judged. They need to be bound up. They need to be seen. And when I finally realized that God cared about my inner pain, something broke open in me, and something began to heal. There's something holy about knowing that your pain matters to God, that He doesn't rush you through it, that He doesn't say, just move on. He sits with you. He binds you up. He bandages the invisible places with His presence. And I know there are some people listening to this right now who have wounds nobody knows about. You smile, but you're bleeding inside. You function, but you're breaking silently. Let me say this to you. God sees you. He sees the cuts that never bled. He sees the stories you never told. And He's not ignoring them. He's healing them, even now. So if you've ever felt like your pain wasn't valid, if you've ever looked around and said, no one understands what I'm carrying, please hear this. God understands. He sees the whole picture, not just what you show. And He's not afraid of your depth. He's not overwhelmed by your sorrow. He doesn't flinch at your darkness. He comes closer. He comes inside the ache. Because where the world walks past your pain, God walks straight into it, with healing in His hands. There's something unbreakable about a soul that's been through hell and still refuses to stay down. You might not see it when you look in the mirror, but if you're still breathing after everything you faced, you are sacred. You are chosen. And you are still here on purpose. There were days I didn't think I'd make it. Days when the weight of it all made me question if my life still had meaning. But I've come to understand survival isn't weakness. It's proof. Proof that God has kept you alive for something greater. And maybe you don't feel strong, but you are standing, and that is strength. There's a quiet fire inside of you that pain couldn't put out. And I see it. More importantly, God sees it. You've been torn, pressed, betrayed, and yet you remain. That's not luck. That's divine resilience. And I want to say this especially to the people who have been told they're too broken, too complicated, too damaged to matter. You are still sacred. Don't let the world define your worth by your scars. Scars don't mean you're weak. Scars mean you've healed. You've survived what was meant to destroy you. You've carried suffering and still found a way to love. That is holy. That is powerful. Look at the Palestinian people, a living symbol of what it means to be unbreakable. Generation after generation has endured exile, occupation, heartbreak, and still they rise, still they dream, still they pray, still they hope. That is not defeat. That is the Spirit of God breathing through a people who know their identity isn't in what's been taken from them. It's in what can't be taken, their soul, their faith, their truth. That kind of strength doesn't come from politics. It doesn't come from weapons. It comes from the unshakable belief that no matter how much is lost, God still sees them as chosen. So I need you to remember this. You are still sacred. You are still chosen. And the fact that you're still here after everything means the enemy failed. The heartbreak didn't win. The silence didn't silence you. And no matter who tried to erase you, overlook you, or abandon you, God never did. You were carved into His hands. You are remembered. You are wanted. And you are not just surviving, you're right. You're carrying the kind of power the world can't comprehend, the power of a soul that refuses to give up. They thought you were finished, didn't they? They saw the loss, the silence, the empty hands, and they called it the end. But what they didn't see What they never see is what God was doing beneath the surface, because when they buried you, they didn't realize God was planting you, that the dirt they threw over your dreams was the very soil God would use to resurrect your destiny. And I say this with fire in my spirit. You are not dead. You are not forgotten. You are a seed in the hands of the Almighty, and your comeback will be greater than your setback. I had a season where everything in my life fell apart. I lost relationships. I lost peace. I lost myself. And the silence of it all made me think God had walked away. But it wasn't abandonment. It was preparation, because sometimes God has to let everything die around you so you'll finally realize where your life really comes from. Not from people, not from approval, not even from your own strength, but from Him. And in that quiet, broken place, something new began to grow, something fierce, something unshakable, something holy. I wasn't being buried, I was being reborn. And you, my friend, are being reborn too. You may not see it yet, but every tear you've cried has watered the ground for something greater. Every sleepless night, every heartbreak, every prayer that felt unanswered, it was all working in silence. And now comes the shift. Now comes the rising. And I speak especially to those who've been told they'd never rise again, to the exiled, the rejected, the forgotten, the silenced. Your roots have gone deep. Your foundation is stronger than ever. And what's coming will shake the ground beneath every lie spoken over you. They tried to bury you with shame. They tried to bury you with trauma, with fear, with war, with silence. But God said, watch what I do with the buried. He specializes in resurrections, in divine comebacks, in bringing beauty from ashes and glory from graves. So don't you dare mistake this season as your ending. This is your rising. This is your roar. This is the moment where the world will look at you. Look at the Palestinian people. Look at every soul they tried to erase and realize you were never gone. You were just getting ready to bloom. There's no neat ending to this story, because healing isn't a finish line you cross. It's a lifelong journey, a fierce dance between brokenness and restoration. And right now, in this very moment, I want you to feel this truth deep in your bones. You are not defined by your pain, your scars, your silence. You are defined by the God who sees every tear, who hears every whispered prayer, who refuses to let you go. Your story isn't over. It's only just beginning. You carry within you a spirit that is unbreakable. Tested, yes, but never defeated. Like the Palestinian people who have faced exile and loss, but still stand with unwavering faith, you too are called to rise. Rise beyond the wounds, beyond the silence, beyond the darkness that tried to bury you. Because what God is doing in your life is bigger than anything that's tried to hold you down. So hold on to this. When the world forgets you, God remembers. When hope seems lost, God is working behind the scenes. When your heart feels too heavy to carry, God's love will lift you higher than you ever dreamed possible. You were never meant to just survive. You were made to thrive, to shine, to be a living testament that no matter how deep the night, the dawn always breaks. This is your divine comeback. Your healing is happening even when you can't see it. So stand firm, speak your truth, believe the impossible, and watch as God turns every tear into testimony, every pain into power, and every moment of silence into a roar that shakes the heavens. Your time is now. Your breakthrough is coming, and the world will never be the same because you refuse to give